Hello, and my name is David Simmons, co-director of Changing Lives Community Services.
And I'm Ben Doyle, also Changing Lives Community Services co-director.
So we're here to talk about sort of our big plan and sort of how we all started. So it's been in the news a couple of years back that I was threatened by a child, 6 years of age, with a knife, and that sort of was the beginning of where we started really, and the importance of early intervention. From that, it was very key to us that we needed to make sure that we were educating the youngest of children. From that incident, me and Ben sort of put our heads together and wanted to make a change and do something. And we realised that sport was the main focus, the main hook to get young people engaged. And with that, we started this program called Changing Lives, and it was to get young children hooked onto a sport and then engage them with educational workshops to talk about knife crime, gang crime, to educate them about not carrying a knife and the dangers of what could happen. So that has been going on for about 3 years now, and we're talking to you from our community hub, which is fantastic. And we've just moved in about 3-4 weeks ago, and it's fantastic for us because this has been one of our dreams, to have our own community hub. And luckily, the government changed their guidelines where we can support vulnerable and key worker children. So we're able to support children after school hours, run our activities, but also talk about the dangers of gangs, knife crime, and we also include a lot about well-being and mental health now. So at the minute, mental health and well-being is very important, especially because of COVID. Things have had to change and adapt. Like we've had to adapt and change with our sessions, making sure that we've got sanitizer stations, temperature checks, trace and the app service that we've got. So we've had to adapt, but we had to make sure that we was putting on these sorts of sessions. And I personally feel that the most important thing that we do is intervention at such a young age, and making sure that we talk about knife crime, gang crime at a young age, and talk to them about the dangers of joining the gang and what that can lead to. Ben?
Yeah, so the way our project looked a few years ago was children would come to our community hub. Obviously not this place now, but it would come to a centre that we'd hire out and effectively set up a youth club type vibe, with that added extra educational resource and workshops where like the police would come down, NHS would come down, and in between the breaks in the sports, the kids would have that 20-25 minutes to go through the rights and wrongs and the dangers and the risks of being in gangs and what to look out for, that sort of thing, which would have been difficult for them to come to if we didn't have that sports, like David said, as the hook to bring them in initially. But not only that, with the sports, it also offers pathways for further progression. So children that wouldn't have a lot of money, their families don't have a lot of money for them to join in some of the sports that the town is putting on, for example, local football clubs, local cricket, tennis. They can be quite expensive. So we'd get the funding from the council and other governing bodies, even like the Golf Foundation funded us some money to put these activities on for the children, for them to then go on and actually take a keen interest in it, and then that being their focus now to surround themselves rather than not having anything and being vulnerable to gangs, etc. So, fast forward from a few years ago to now, we're actually fortunate to have this facility that we've been provided with, and it's just about making enough impact to show that there is a need for it, and especially in the centre of the town where it is a hub for everyone to come to. And now we have it 7 days a week opposed to just the 6 hours a week that was doing before, because it costs so much money to rent these facilities and it was always governed by them. So we've been here for a few weeks now and the impact is huge. And our main goal is to help the vulnerable children in early intervention, but since COVID, we're seeing like a change in our services where we're actually supporting the families a lot now, and the adults, because of the lockdown and how it's affecting both the children and the adults. So we're just having to, adapt and change and keep rolling with it. So just to help, everybody in this situation as much as we can.
And just jumping in is that there's loads of shops closing down. We've got no one going to gyms or anything like that. So in the town, it's so important to have a place where young children can come together and just interact with each other. And that's what's been the major thing for us, is that since we've opened up, parents have said that it's a lifeline for them. And that's so important, that these young children can talk and interact and play and socialize with each other. It is so important. As crime, gang crime, that is now taking over London and is building back up again. We need to make sure that we are doing as much as we can to support those young people. With no youth centres and places shut, these guys are going to just go onto the streets. So it's really important now that we really take authority and stand up and look at these shops. And if they're shut, let's open them up, let's convert them, let's make it into a community hub for our young people. And let's do something about it. There's so many shops, derelict shops, that are shut down. Let's just open it back up. We've done it on a very small budget. We've done it in about 2 weeks, and we've made it into something really, really special in the town.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing that we're doing, we have been doing, that we're just sort of stumbling across each time, is we're actually creating a model that can be used universally, certainly in this country. Where we're just, a town in the country. I'm sure that there's many towns, we all know that there's going to be many towns in the country that could do with this sort of service, and it just proves through the impact. So we're hoping to reach out to other communities that can see the work that we're doing and just replicate what we're doing in their town, just to have that bigger reach and try and get it across the UK, eventually. Yeah, so with the sports we're doing, for example, we'd have, because our facility is not massive, we're limited with the amount of children we can have in it. With that being said, it is better to have a small amount of children to one coach, because they get more contact time with the coach. And so, for example, how one of the sessions would look is, let's just take football, for example. The main topic of the session will be, one of them may be positive choices. So at the start of the session, the coach will speak to the children and say, what's a positive choice? And then, some of them say they don't know what you mean. And then we'll give an example. A positive choice would not to, snatch or steal somebody's sandwich, for example, in the playground. A positive choice would be to ask politely for it. And then we'll transfer that to football and say, well, what's a positive choice here? Is it passing in that direction, or is it passing in that direction? What is the consequences of it, us passing in that direction? And then come back at the end of the session and then try and test their understanding on that positive choice. And then that particular subject, they'll take that into society now, and hopefully that rings a bell in their head. With the care packages?
Yeah, and just on the sports, we offer a variety of different sports, including martial arts, football, cricket, tennis, dance. We cater for girls, not just the boys, and it's for ages from 4 to 17. Once COVID ends, we would like to offer it to younger adults and then get the families in. So it is a whole community vibe that we're sort of reaching for. And also we provide to our vulnerable families. So we get care packages in. Like for today, we are supported by Essex County Council and Active Essex, who we've got a partnership with, and we're delivering, and people are picking up, we've got 100 care packages that are going to go out to the community for those children on free school meals. So it's really important that this hub is still here, and we keep going with it, and hopefully more hubs can open around the country.
So, for example, when we started, we are coaches ourselves, and we recognise that yes, we could deliver these different sports. But at the same time, we recognise we can't deliver all the sports to that certain standard that we want. So we invited the Harlow Town Rugby Club to come down, the local golf club coach to come down, FA coaches to come down, and tennis, all from their separate areas. And then they would offer their time initially to come in and do a few taster sessions, and then build from there. And, for example, Essex Cricket Club, they come down, they put on a session, and then they actually trained up 2 of our staff members to level 2 equivalent of cricket. And then so now all of a sudden we've got 2 fully trained cricket coaches that had an interest in the sport. And so that's the sort of thing that we've been doing. Other organisations like the Golf Foundation have put us on courses, put some of our staff members in courses, just so we can get them children hooked initially, and not because some children might do a cricket class that is not being taken by a cricket coach effectively, and then they might lose their interest straight away from the first session. So it's very important that we get the best that we can find in this position to coach the children from the start.
We have got a partner group that we partner with called Roots to Wellbeing, who do all the specialist stuff with the young children.
So just on that Wellbeing, before David explains what it is, like we've got a young lad there called Joe, who's 16. His mum works in a school, and he's suffering with the COVID lockdowns, quite struggling mentally in regards to doing his schoolwork, and he wants to defer the year. And his mum said, she understands he just can't do it online, but he's going to, he's agreed that he'd do some voluntary work in the community with us to help him, with his skills, with his general skills, social skills, etc., and get him in that working environment. So we've got him and other students in a similar position helping us out.
So on the sessions, we have a group called Roots to Wellbeing who will come in and run those sessions. But we also, again, all our staff currently are getting trained to become mental health first aiders, as we know it's going to be massively important now due to COVID. And that's why we are getting all our staff members trained up to ensure that we're able to support our young people when they come to our hub. As we know that the effects of COVID is not just a physical thing, but also a mental thing.
Well, yeah, we've got martial arts classes that we have one of our staff members who's a trained martial arts coach. So he would come down and do workshops, regular workshops on self-defense. And obviously we have a number. Paul, his name is an ex-gang member, quite an old guy, late 40s, who's been through the mill, and he does mentoring with some of the older children that have the potential to go down that route. And we also, myself and David, also 2 years ago went for a training day as such with an ex-gang member that goes around to a lot of universities, etc. Do you remember his name? Shelton?
Yeah, not sure.
So in that term, that's the sort of stuff we do. Also, police officers come in and do workshops with the children as well, to show them, what the risk and what kind of sentences you'll be looking at for that sort of stuff.
And so what we've done on these trainings that we get trained about the county line. So yes, in Harlow there's a very famous block of flats that have been converted into. So their office space is converted into flats now. But the issue was that we had London families coming over that were quite vulnerable, and with that was bringing the county line drugs into Harlow, and it was also the reasons why the project started was that we was sort of finding out that young people was getting involved in gangs. So what we tried to do to combat that was to get a minibus and pick up the most vulnerable children from the primary school and secondary school, so gang members can't collect or loiter or exploit the young people at school before they go home. So that was one of the major things that we done in Harlow to stop that from happening. And the issue is that London is massive, and you know that there's knife crime and gang crime happening every day there. But what is happening now is that these guys are now moving them into the local towns and cities like Harlow and starting it there. So it's just becoming, they may be stopping in London maybe for a few days or a few weeks, but actually the problem isn't going, it's just moving. And that's the issue. And then we're trying to combat that and try and prevent it from not happening any further. So the issue for us, me personally, that is never going to go away. It's just that it's just moving to maybe a different area. And the key thing that I think personally, and I've tried to get it to government, is that we need to start doing this early intervention from early doors. It needs to be in the national curriculum, where I know it's hard for some parents to understand it, but these young children are getting exploited by the things that they watch, by the games that they play. And it might not be intentional things that they think that the children are watching that's going to change the way that they think, but it's happening. And it needs to change. With social media being so massive nowadays, it's so easy to get drawn into something. And we need to be able to protect our children. And I mean, when we protect, I mean, we talk about it to children in years 1 and 2, from as soon as they reach sort of 5 or 6. It doesn't have to be hard hitting, but I think children just need to be made aware. And I think that's really, really important.
I think one of the main things, while we're seeing success and impact, is because the partnerships that we're creating. Whereas you may see other organisations trying to do it all themselves and not want and having that barrier up. Whereas our door is always open to everyone and every idea, and try and work with as many people as possible. But in regards to the parents, what we're seeing, especially now with the COVID relief stuff that we're doing, is that the parents are, some of them may be getting, it's not just what we're giving them, it's things like food bank and like the universal credits and things like that. A lot of parents seem to be relying on that now, and not actually taking it upon themselves to get themselves out of that position, because they are now receiving regular food parcels, they're receiving regular money, the grants, etc. They're receiving more grants because of the COVID relief support that the government's providing them with. So that's all great. All that stuff is giving, but these parents are going more and more into a hole that they feel more uncomfortable getting out of. So we're set up a project that is the Help Us Help You scheme, and so for example, the parent will come in and do some workshops with some of our sponsors, some of our corporate sponsors, and so for example, one of them has a freight business. So we've asked him if he could, once the restrictions are relaxed and we can have some workshops in there, for him to come in and just do like a talk, a little bit like a work experience type talk, and run something on a similar way model to how they would do it in the guy that the apprentice, but obviously not gear it up like the apprentice, but offer them somewhere to come. The kids can come and play, like the youngest can come and play with one of our coaches in the sports area. Then the parents can come in there and get some experience from different trades in the community to help these people find some skills and give them that extra sort of, actually I like that feeling of self-worth. And then hopefully that parent, one of them parents, will then get a job with whoever, maybe on a part-time basis, and hopefully from there it spirals into something good for them, a better future without having to rely on other people's benefits.
So yeah, in terms of supporting families, in terms of gang crime and knife crime, we do encourage them to come to our workshops involving the police, so then they get sort of that understanding of working with the police. Because some children put up that barrier as soon as they see a police person, they don't tell the truth, they're a bit shy, and it's the same with the parents. Like, if they are brought around an atmosphere or community vibe where they are against the police, then it's very hard for them to work with us. So what we try and do is we try and incorporate that within the project and within the program. So while the child is doing the sports activities, we'll try and get the parents to come along to our one of our Essex Police workshops, where they learn and understand about the difficulties of what it could be like for a child going out on the street and getting into trouble or getting exploited. And it's all about the online cyber stuff that we try and incorporate, as well as the big like signals and signs for the dangers of what exploitation could look like. Because some parents are, I think, are quite naive and think that their child is perfect and doesn't get involved in that. But I can tell personally, as a child who both parents were a paramedic and nurse, I sort of got myself into some situations where I was like, no, I really shouldn't, but I did it because I wanted to remain cool, I wanted to remain relevant. And you get yourself into these situations where you are a little bit scared and worried, but you do it because you're involved in that friendship group. And Ben has had the same story and the same thing where he's got himself in a wrong friendship group, and it's and it's got worse for us. Do you know what I mean? And that's the same with children nowadays. If they get themselves in a wrong friendship group, then they could go down that wrong path, and it's very easy. And I do think parents need to be educated and come to our workshops more. And that's one of the challenging barriers that we have got, is getting parents engaged. And with our project, that is probably one of the most difficult things to do, is to get adults to come to our project. And that is something that we are constantly improving, something that we're always developing. And especially with COVID now, them plans have had to stop because we're not allowed to work with parents, unfortunately. We can only work with key worker and vulnerable children. So now that hopefully once COVID ends, we can start really pushing and working with our families and our parents. I currently work in a primary school. I am actually a teacher, so I do all the sports stuff and run a few programs there. We've actually got a partnership with Basildon Secondary School where we do some mentoring and support groups. We was working at a secondary school in Harlow where there was a Connexus and Apollo group. So they were young people on the fringes of exclusion, and they would work with us because we wanted to try and keep them in school, in mainstream school, and support them with the sports and then do the educational stuff. So like we've done in the project, we was then doing that in a school setting. And it was working really, really well. So we are trying to take that model into other schools. And unfortunately, COVID again has stopped our planning in our tracks, because we was at Basildon and it was going really, really well. But unfortunately, due to COVID, agency partners wasn't able to go back into the school. So we think schools are one of the most important things that we can do to help and support gangs and knife crime and try and prevent it from happening from onto the streets. So is there anything more you want to say about that?
No, just on the schools, it was making a big impact. I mean, we went into Basildon just in December. It was November, December for that term. And so the groups of children were coming out, highlighted groups of children were coming out of mainstream classes and then coming to our alternative education program that was making a real good effect on them, as well as bringing them out of the classes. It was having a positive impact in their other classes as well, because the most disruptive ones were not in that class. So a big percentage of the disruptive children are the ones that need to burn off that energy and need to get out there and use alternative methods of education. And that's where we come in using our sports. So that was just to add that one. But unfortunately, the school's shut, and we're just looking forward to getting back in there. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, we've always had a vision from the start, is to create a model, which we've created. And we just want to imprint that model on a bigger scale. So, for example, we've got a shop here that offers what we do, and we'd like to be able to go into another borough and provide our model to other boroughs and say to them, look, let's have that. Can we use that shop there? Can we use this model and then to roll that out across Essex, and then move up and eventually to the UK and just have. Bring the youth club back, because they was there when I was younger, and they made a huge difference on me and my friends. And that that plan, that social franchise model, in the shape of youth clubs with educational backing and workshops, is is the way forward, I feel, to tackle this in early intervention. Because early intervention is only going to happen, the effects of it is only going to happen, what, 5 to 10 years down the line. So,
yeah, and just on that, like with what we do is that we cover a range of, well, a variety of different sports in the day. So we don't just cover football, cricket, tennis. We do, but we cover it in the whole day. So it's not just one sport happening. We've got 5 different sports. So if we can get that going across the town, across other cities, then it's not like we're offering a variety of different activities to our young people, and that's key to find something what that child actually wants. If that child doesn't want to get into football, we can offer them dance or cricket. If that child doesn't want to get into boxing, we can offer tennis. So it's offering a variety of different sports to really hook and capture them and get them at our project, and then we can then really build on the educational workshops, and that's the important thing, is to get them and to keep them coming back and not on the streets until the lockdown ends. So then we can invite more children to come. We can really open up to the public. Like we didn't really have like an opening because of COVID, so that was quite sad that we couldn't really like put it on to the whole public, and it was more of a quiet opening sort of thing, which is a real shame. But the impact that it's having on the community is amazing, and already opening our doors within 2 weeks, the comments and words that these parents are saying are amazing, and it's great for us.